There's a phrase that's been quietly passed around workplaces for decades. You've heard it, you've probably even said it. It sounds harmless, familiar, almost comforting. But in the world of workplace safety, it's one of the most dangerous phrases you can ever hear. We've always done it this way. It's the shrug that follows a missing guardrail, the excuse that covers a shortcut, the casual dismissal when someone new asks a question. It's the language of habit, of routine, of complacency. And more often than not, it's the final phrase spoken before a serious incident happens. In the last two videos, we walked through the statistics, the most common hazards, and the need to pay attention. But today, we're going deeper. Not just into what's dangerous, but why we let danger persist. Because until we understand the mindset that allows risk to thrive, we can't change it. So let's talk about that phrase. Let's talk about where it comes from, what it means, and why it might be the most destructive sentence ever whispered on a job site. The first thing to understand is that we've always done it this way is rarely said with bad intentions. It's not usually a sign of defiance. In most cases, it comes from a place of comfort, of repetition, of something that's worked, for now. It's what happens when a task is performed so many times without incident that the risk begins to fade from memory. It becomes muscle memory, automatic, unquestioned. But here's the problem: safety isn't about what hasn't happened. It's about what could happen. Just because something hasn't gone wrong yet doesn't mean it's safe. And in safety, yet is the most dangerous part of that sentence. A worker has been climbing the same ladder for 15 years. Never a slip, never a fall. One day the grip tape wears down a bit more. It rains. The rungs are wet. But the worker doesn't notice, because he's always done it this way. No harness, no second thought, just routine, until his foot slips and it's too late. Or picture a warehouse team that's been manually lifting boxes just above the recommended limit. It's faster, easier. The team has been doing it for months, then a new hire joins. She struggles, her form is off. There's no formal training, because the team has always done it this way. 2 weeks later, she throws out her back. She's off for months. The team is stunned, but it wasn't unpredictable, it was avoidable. That phrase, "we've always done it this way," isn't just about physical risk. It's cultural, it's institutional. It seeps into training, communication, and leadership. It stops questions before they're asked. It shuts down innovation. It dismisses new perspectives. And worst of all, it creates blind spots, the kind that grow until someone falls into them. And here's the kicker: the longer something unsafe goes unchallenged, the more normal it becomes. Over time, we stop seeing the risk at all. The missing safety checks, the outdated procedures, the corners that get cut to meet deadlines, they all become part of the routine, until they don't. Let's talk about some real-world consequences. In 2010, the Deepwater Horizon oil rig exploded in the Gulf of Mexico. 11 workers were killed, dozens were injured. The environmental impact was catastrophic. One of the most chilling parts of the investigation was the discovery that warning signs had been ignored, testing had been skipped, procedures were altered, not maliciously but gradually, quietly, over time. Why? Because that's how things had been done. Small shortcuts became normalized, risks were absorbed into the routine, until they became tragedy. Or consider the collapse of the Rana Plaza garment factory in Bangladesh in 2013. More than 1,100 workers were killed when the building crumbled. Cracks had appeared in the walls days before. Evacuation had been advised, but operations continued, because that's how things had always been done. Production was prioritized over safety, and thousands paid the price. These aren't isolated incidents. They're echoes of a system that values familiarity over foresight, efficiency over examination. They're reminders that every routine, no matter how comfortable, needs to be questioned. But let's not stay stuck in tragedy. Let's talk about how to break the cycle. The first step is simple but powerful. Ask why. Why is this done this way? Why is this step skipped? Why are we relying on memory instead of a checklist? And why hasn't this been updated in years? These questions aren't accusations, they're invitations. Invitations to think critically, to assess risk, and to, innovate. The best safety cultures aren't built on compliance, they're built on curiosity. Encourage your team at every level to challenge routines. Normalize it, praise it, make it safe to speak up, because when questions are welcomed, hazards are uncovered. And when hazards are uncovered, well, incidents are prevented. Next, introduce structured reviews of tasks, especially those that have been done the same way for years. This doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, a simple 3-step model works wonders. Observe, ask, adjust. Observe the task being done. Then, ask questions about the steps, and finally, adjust if needed based on current risks, updated standards, or better practices. What worked 10 years ago might not work today, and honestly, what worked last year might not work tomorrow. The pace of change in technology, materials, and processes is rapid. Safety needs to evolve with it. So here's the thing. Be intentional about involving new voices. New workers, young workers, people from different departments, and, well, people with fresh eyes. Often, the most valuable safety insight comes from someone who hasn't been doing it this way for years. They see things others have stopped noticing, and they ask the questions others are just too used to skip. One company I worked with invited new hires to do a fresh eyes review during their first week. They walked the job site or the office, took notes, and shared anything that stood out, no matter how small. And you know what? They caught things. Big things. Missing signage, trip hazards, poorly labeled equipment. Things that the 10-year veterans had walked past 100 times. So the next time you hear someone say, "We've always done it this way," pause, ask, challenge, reflect. If this message resonated with you, I want to hear your story. Drop a comment below. What's something in your workplace that's done a certain way, just because that's how it's always been? And what did you do about it? And if you're ready to keep challenging the status quo, subscribe to the channel. We've got more coming, more tools, more stories, more ways to make safety not just something we talk about, but something we live.